Lapel mic was kind of a bad idea, so, back to roasting. Time to feed the trolls. The series.
Tyler, eat the pizza.
Hello, this is Fuzzy Weasel, and welcome to another Feeding the Trolls. This episode's gonna be kinda different. We're doing a guy whose opinion is on a comic book character. A comic book movie character. Alright, just a movie character. He doesn't go into the comic book version of Thanos. Yeah, Generation Films, the guy who's associated with Generation Tech. Not necessarily as big as Generation Tech, but still, I'm hitting all the big ones now, aren't I? I'm just slugging away. Here we go.
Servants of the global unity movement, my name is American Ben. Welcome back to another episode of Generation Films. In comics, the villain Thanos, or at least he's a villain as far as the public is led to believe.
Because in the comics he's in love with death and killed half the universe to try and bone her. But, you know, is that villainous behavior? Fuck, I don't know. Shucks.
Is a creature bent on wreaking pure destruction on the universe for the sake of his love for Mistress Death. And whatever he doesn't do in the name of his longing, he perpetrates purely for the reason that he derives pleasure from the pain of others.
And also that one time he hung out with Pip the Troll. They're sort of tight. It's kind of complicated.
When I finally got to know Thanos on the big screen, whereas at first I thought he was the absolute form of evil.
What are you doing? What are you doing down here with your hands? It's like every time you talk, your hands do something. It's distracting.
With a little bit of free thinking.
Yeah, fuck! Kanye, just a fucking... shit! Don't throw around pictures of Kanye like that!
I realized that while he may not be the hero that we want, he's the hero that we desperately need.
Is he Batman? Are you gonna see Thanos in a giant Batman suit?
Let's think for a second about what Thanos wants.
Well, film Thanos is nuts. And comic book Thanos is a necrophile, so...
At first, he seems megalomaniacal, as if he seeks the Infinity Stones for the sake of power.
Well, to be fair, that was most likely first draft Thanos, yeah. The very first time we see him is in that teaser from the end of the first Avengers movie, and the guy does say, like, to fight Earth is to court death, and he turns around and he's like, yeah, I want to fuck death. So it kind of seems like in the original overarching storyline of this whole thing, that was sort of his deal. And I think that may have been cut just because it made him sort of one-dimensional. And I'm all for that decision personally, because they ended up making a much, much more interesting villain. I mean, if they had started Infinity War with Thanos marching around Thor going,
"Yes, I will take this Infinity Stone, so I can bone a skeleton, and you cannot stop me."
I think it would have been a much sillier movie.
But then he later reveals that he saw the effects of overpopulation on his home planet of Titan.
Well, actually, Titan's a moon of Saturn. It's not really a planet.
Of course, in the cinematic universe, I guess it's probably a planet, yeah. They changed a lot of things for the cinematic universe. For the better. For the most part, for the better.
And experienced the abominable suffering that followed from it.
Which, if you think about it, doesn't make a whole lot of sense if they were a space-faring culture, but we will get to the bottomless well of not making sense here in a moment.
He warned his fellow denizens on Titan to act to control the population, and they didn't, and much pain and suffering was caused by that inaction, by the inability to make hard decisions for the sake of the future. As I was watching the movie, I kept trying to find a way to hate Thanos, to despise him.
I know, right? And that's what made him such a cool villain. It was refreshing to see a comic book movie bad guy who wasn't just like, yeah, revenge. And that's been like all of them. It's all been revenge. Except for the guy in Spider-Man Homecoming, and his whole deal was money and sort of revenge. But for once, it wasn't fucking revenge, and I love it. Oh, and I guess Ego wasn't about revenge either. But I think Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was less about the villain and more about the interpersonal family dynamics.
Because the moral person within me would do that, and wants to project to the world that I'm a good person, who protects the lives of the innocent.
You know, I don't think that's an entirely accurate statement. I mean, the guy was for killing half the universe. Boy, I sure did like that movie. Yeah, but killing half the universe is totally wrong.
Virtue signaler, you're not really against genocide.
Gasp, you have found me!
And strives for justice in all matters of my life.
I think you might be taking yourself way too seriously then. See, I live my life the way I want to live my life because it's how I want to live my life. Not because I'm walking around with a big sign going, I'm a good person! I'm a good person! I actually find people who follow really strict moral codes to be kind of unsettling.
When he killed Loki, who attacked him...
Oh, like he was gonna let Loki live in that situation.
Who attacked him...
Right after Thanos got done attacking an unarmed civilian transport full of refugees. But Loki attacked him!
I felt without thinking that Thanos was evil.
I mean, all the guy did was kill refugees. As someone who strives to embody justice in everything that I do, it didn't bother me.
But then again, Thanos would have let Loki live had he just given him the Space Stone and not attacked.
Just give me the stone that'll let me kill half the universe and I'll let you live. I'm the good guy.
Thanos repeatedly acts in self-defense throughout the film and repeatedly shows no thirst for death.
Except when he attacked that transport. And also the time that he authorized the Chitauri to come and invade Earth and kill a bunch of people. And also that time that he wiped out half of Gamora's homeworld. But other than those edge cases...
He lets Thor live.
Dude, he was totally gonna kill Thor. He threw him out into space. Now, far be it for me to speculate on comic book alien human anatomy, but it seems like, you know, you probably can't live in space forever without oxygen. I mean, just the thing. It's just a feeling. It's just a feeling.
Only imprisoning him for enough time that he and his minions can escape the Asgardian ship with the Space Stone. Thor demonstrates his anger at Thanos for killing his brother Loki and his friend Heimdall. But he should only be angry at himself for not just handing Thanos the stone.
Are you guys seeing why this video bothered me? It's so hard to tell whether or not this is an act or if this guy is genuinely trying to justify Thanos' actions. Which in and of itself isn't a reason to be on this show. It's just the arguments that this guy puts forth are so, like, nonsensical that it warranted a response.
Nobody had to die in that situation.
Except half the universe later. And also all the people Thanos killed when he attacked the transport full of refugees. Did you and I see the same movie?
You might argue that Thanos kills Thor by blowing up the ship, but surely he knows the strength of Thor, the god of thunder. He knows the explosion won't kill him.
Possibly, but he didn't know he was gonna get rescued. As far as Thanos was concerned, he was leaving Thor in a fucking cloud of wreckage out in the middle of fucking space. I mean, even if Thor can just be in space without food or water or air or pressure indefinitely, that's still basically a death sentence. It's like trapping someone in a vault in some unknown part of the world, or like Antarctica, with plenty of food and water and air and warmth and everything, but no one's gonna find them. So I guess it's merciful, kinda?
Quite honorably, Thanos lets Thor live.
Yes, it's so honorable the way he blew up the refugee ship. Such honor.
The situation isn't much different with Vision and Scarlet Witch. Give Thanos' children the stone, and you get to live. Well, Vision may perish, but only because that's the only way to obtain the Mind Stone.
Yeah, except at this point, didn't Thanos have the Reality Stone? Couldn't he have just rolled up to Vision and been like, yoink, you can live without that stone in your head, and now I have another stone. But he didn't think of that, did he? Well, of course he didn't. If he did, there wouldn't be a movie. If Thanos had done any of his decisions logically, there wouldn't be a movie. I get the necessity for plot contrivances, but don't try to pretend they're not plot contrivances, man.
Surely, if they believe in a greater purpose, one artificially created being shouldn't stand in the way, right?
Of killing half the universe, and we'll get to why that's a completely stupid idea in a second.
Thanos also doesn't kill any of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Seriously, was there another version of Infinity War that was playing in theaters that I didn't see? Was there a straight-up Barney version where Thanos rolls up to the Avengers and he's like,
Oh, well, gosh golly gee, I sure would like all the Infinity Stones. If you could see to it in your kind hearts to give them to me, I guarantee you I will solve overpopulation in a very responsible manner.
and then Iron Man's like, well, you do seem like a righteous dude, so here's the Infinity Stones, bruh. In that version of Avengers Infinity War, the Iron Man sounds like that. That's how he sounds.
Peter Quill, Mantis, and Drax all lived through the events at Nowhere,
Yeah, but then...
despite their direct opposition to Thanos' goals and desire to kill him. Peter even tries to kill Thanos, who in leaving Nowhere remarks that he likes Peter. I imagine that Thanos admires Peter's bravery despite being a relatively weak and puny human.
He's a half-god. There was a whole movie about that. And granted, that doesn't really matter anymore since the events of that movie. I'm just putting it out there that you might want to review some of the source material.
Thanos won me over at this moment,
Were you high?
because even if I didn't quite understand his purpose yet, I sense wisdom in him,
Yes, I sense wisdom in the giant purple space potato.
that he understood a deeper truth that I hadn't quite grasped yet.
That no one in space wears sleeves.
I'm not saying that Thanos has never killed unreasonably,
Yeah, but earlier you did.
but from what I saw, his actions were very rational.
Sir, should we begin firing on the unarmed transport full of refugees?
Yes, it fulfills my honorable and just vision and is totally called for.
His killing's defensive.
Sir, the transport, which is unarmed, is not firing on us.
Which makes this attack in self-defense.
Though, of course, I don't fault the Avengers and Guardians for trying to stop him.
It sure fucking sounds like you do.
They think his plot to wipe out half of all life in the universe is insane and malevolent. But as Thanos says, it's merciful. And can any of us really argue with that?
Damn! He's got me there. Why, I'd never be able to argue that killing half the universe for a planetary issue is unjustified.
Death is always mercy.
Really? I think that greatly depends on degree of suffering in comparison to death. For example, I currently have a job that I really don't enjoy going to, and honestly, I am trying desperately to look for a way out of it. But given the choice between having this job that I don't really like and dying, somehow I'd probably keep the job.
No, it is mercy to die.
There is no suffering when you're dead.
Okay, two things. One, my previous point stands. It is entirely dependent on the degree of suffering. I'm not gonna shoot someone for getting a splinter. And two, while we don't necessarily know what happens after death in this universe, we're talking about the Marvel universe. And in the Marvel universe, there is hell, and souls exist. So, actually, not to be a huge comic book nerd here, but no, you can totally suffer after you die in a comic book.
And if someone could invent a way to wipe out half the life in the universe without physically harming anyone.
Are you, listening to yourself talk? I mean, you can't kill anyone without harming them. The two go hand in hand. It's kind of like you can't hurt somebody without harming them. They're mutually connected things. I can't drive somewhere without getting in a car. I can't make a square with 3 sides. It doesn't work.
Isn't that merciful just so long as the alternative is worse?
Yeah, but, and we'll get to this in a second, the alternative isn't worse. In fact, the alternative makes no sense when we're talking about space. And again, we'll get to that.
In this case, overpopulation means that eventually people will suffer on a mass scale.
Except they won't. And again, we'll get to why in a second.
And not just on Earth, but throughout the entire universe where resources are ubiquitously scarce.
It's pronounced scarce. Also, now we're into why Thanos' whole deal doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You're talking about the entire universe. The entire universe. To borrow a sentence, space is big. Really, really big. You just can't wrap your head around how big space is. I mean, you might think it's a long way from your house to the fucking pharmacist, but that's just peanuts to space. Space is full of energy, okay? There are a near incalculable number of stars out there, and there are trillions of those stars that have no planets. There's literally nothing around them. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you're dealing with cultures and civilizations that have faster than light travel. And when you have faster than light travel, all of a sudden, getting to different worlds, it's not such a big deal. And even if you didn't, there's a thing called the Kardashev scale. And to be a Kardashev 1 civilization, all you gotta do is harness the power around your native star. And just one of these fucking things, just one of them, can sustain a population many thousands of times greater than any population that we see in most science fiction universes, Marvel included. Not to mention the fact that the resources around such stars and the stuff you'd be able to get off of a star through star lifting could supply you with a fleet greater than any science fiction fleet ever portrayed on screen. So when you're talking about overpopulation being a problem in the fucking whole of the universe, you're talking a massive chunk of people. So massive that it is utterly inconceivable that there would not be just tons of fucking aliens on Earth. Which, I mean, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe there might be, but way before 2008. What I'm saying is, the scales involved invalidate the problem. There is literally infinite space to spread out. But what about food, I might hear you say? Well, it just happens to be a universe where us lowly Earthlings have an Iron Man suit that can literally make itself. You mean to tell me that the same technology that can make an Iron Man suit out of goo can't make food? You can't use these same molecular robots to deconstruct an asteroid and just turn it into a 1 mile by 1 mile cube of fucking protein? We can make a flying... Look at the fuck this fucking thing just did! Look what it just fucking did! We can have that, but we can't have a vat that just grows meat all day? You mean to tell me genetic engineering can create this goddamn thing? Well, a combination of genetic engineering and gamma radiation, because that's how that works. But it can't make a crop that can grow in fucking dust? My point is, the moment you have the technology that is presented in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you no longer have the problems that you have with overpopulation, because you can just ship people off. And yes, there are ways to get around this, and ultimately, if that was a viable solution in the MCU, then we wouldn't have movies. But really, doesn't the whole thing just work so much better if Thanos was just on a planet that had comparable technology to us, that never went out into space, that ended up starving mostly to death on a planet ravaged by overpopulation and over-industrialization, with no technologies to reach to a higher level of advancement and no viable space program? Wouldn't that just seem like a better backstory? And then he sees it and he goes nuts and he thinks, well, this must apply to the whole universe, and he's not thinking logically because he's nuts. I mean, it kind of fits with what we see in the movie. I just don't understand this justification. It seems like you're really reaching into the fucking hollow. Just like, I know there's something here, and you're treating it so seriously that it's just hard to figure out whether or not this is an act or if these are your serious attempts at justification. Because if they're your serious attempts at justification, your justification is very flawed. And to any of you arguing this is obviously an act, okay, guys, look at the title of the fucking show. It's Feeding the Trolls. Sometimes we're gonna hit people who are acting. We already have. But if we're seriously treating this as your legit points on the issue, then we're gonna be here a while.
And then, as Thanos explains, by simply snapping his fingers, half the life in the universe just ceases to exist. Is this even death?
Is this even death? Is dying even death? I guess. I don't know, man. It might be.
I suppose having existed is dependent on the memories the living still hold of someone or something.
No, it's totally not. We will never find the bodies of all of the dinosaurs, and we have no memories of their existence, but I guarantee you, lots and lots of dinosaurs existed, and their existence was not dependent on us remembering them.
And in that way, I guess those who disappeared after Thanos snaps his fingers died. But it's a pretty easy way to go.
Oh yeah, that looks fucking easy. Positively pleasant, I mean, shit.
And it certainly solves the problem of overpopulation, preventing the present and future suffering of billions.
Yeah, but does it? Does it really? Because even if overpopulation is a problem, like if we're just dealing with Earth, somehow killing half of the Earth's population just all of a sudden at random seems like a real easy way to start a few nuclear meltdowns.
Trillions even.
Except after a few generations of all the survivors fucking, and you end up with a population that's as high as it was before, and then you have to kill 50% of it again and cause more death and suffering. But, you know, aside from that,
half the life in the universe.
which, if you think about it, if life in the universe of Marvel, of the MCU, is a lot like Earth life, and I have no reason to assume it's not. I mean, look at the fucking aliens. They're blue, they're aliens. Then 99.9% of that life is bacterial. And I'd be willing to bet money that if you have the population of bacteria, you would get back to 100% in relatively short order. You might not only not solve overpopulation, if that was really a problem, you might end up just giving people a few really upset stomachs if their biology is dependent on a sustainable population inside their organs digesting their food, you know, like people.
You shall all witness my power with your tummy aches.
Also, if you're hitting all life in the universe at random without distinction, then you're probably wiping out a few food sources too, so way to make the problem worse.
Thanos' actions perhaps prevent the suffering of an unfathomable number of beings.
Wow, this antimatter reactor could provide power for billions and billions of people, but it's very unstable. Luckily, I am here to make sure that poof.
And to effect such a change on a universal scale is otherwise impossible.
And completely unnecessary.
Is one to rely on governments and intergalactic relations, or better yet, on chance, to ensure that essential resources are evenly available throughout the universe?
I'm sorry, I thought we were wiping out half the population, not guaranteeing equal distribution of resources. If that's what you were going for, then you really fuck up if you just kill half the people on Earth. You'll end up with riots, famines, probably a few explosions as key factory workers just sort of vanish. Pilots just vanishing. Bus drivers just vanishing. Doctors in the middle of fucking surgery. I mean, it's essentially the rapture. And I've already gone over why that's a complete asshole move by God. Watch my movie review. Another one will be out really soon, I promise. Totally.
Remember, it could take millions of years to effect universal change.
Well, technically, since the universe is constantly expanding, it would take forever.
This ensures widespread survival in an instant.
And I just explained why it doesn't.
There's no denying that.
No, there's plenty of denying it. This episode is probably already 20 minutes long, full of denying it.
So the only question is it the right thing to do?
Well, given that it is a completely useless solution.
And this is why Thanos is the hero we need. Because there is no answering such a large, complex question.
It's called a Dyson swarm.
In today's world, especially in Western society, people are too afraid to act to do what is necessary.
Ah, these damn people, totally unwilling to kill half the Earth's population.
Because they're overly concerned with doing what is right, with projecting to the world that they are a good person.
So your argument comes down to stop virtue signaling, commit genocide.
They want to be liked and adored. Leaders want the people to champion them and vote for them. They want the public to sing their praises and call them magnanimous leaders who have drenched the public with their grace.
Ew. I want Trump to drench me with his grace.
And no one does what needs to be done.
You hear that, Ellen Thomas? You better kill everybody.
The more unpopular an action is, the harder it is to do.
Doesn't seem that hard to me.
Now imagine erasing half the life in the universe. Something no decent human being would support.
Yes, because, again, it's totally unnecessary.
Something that likely no decent being in the universe would support.
Not if you're crazy.
That's a hard goal to stand up for and not back down from. But Thanos does it. Not because he enjoys killing, not because he wants to see suffering, but on the contrary, he wants the universe to thrive.
But really, does he, though? 'Cause I mean, if you think about it, if you kill half the people in the universe, and then that other half thrives, you're not neutering them. They're gonna repopulate, and if they're thriving, they're gonna repopulate even faster, and then you get the same problem. So unless he was also making everybody immortal and sterile, I don't see much way of going about doing this and not killing everybody.
And if people are going to die, he would rather have them disappear.
I don't feel so good. You're all right. I don't know what's happening.
Just cease to exist, rather than suffer unto painful ends, dying slowly.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Sir, please. Please, I don't want to go. I don't want to go.
Thanos has the resolve to carry out the most difficult action in history while being abhorred and demonized across the universe. He has no desire to cement his own legacy.
Except for all the times that he does it and his criers go out saying how merciful he is and that everyone should love him. Again, did we see the same movie?
He only pursues the benefit of the mass of life throughout the universe.
Which I just explained his solution does not help.
And after he snaps his fingers, he seems to be at peace. He doesn't continue to kill the remaining beings in Wakanda.
Yeah, because his army of slicer-dicer dogs are totally not continuing to stab people after he snaps his fingers.
He just leaves. People often excoriate politicians around the world for promoting war from the safety of their own confines.
Are you saying that Iraq would have been totally justified if George Bush had flown an actual fire support mission?
They have nothing to lose, say the public. And whether a war is justified or not, this is always a valid criticism.
That's a very Western view of looking at war.
But Thanos does have something to lose if he will complete his quest. He must kill his adopted daughter Gamora.
Who is a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, a group that you just said he doesn't kill any of.
He clearly loves her as his own child. He demonstrates that with his tears.
Well, he demonstrates that with a bit more than tears, but okay, if we're gonna take a super simplistic approach to the whole narrative, then yes, he justifies it with tears.
And while some may say that his murder of her only proves his madness,
yes, totally.
His unrelenting thirst for omnipotence, is that really true? Does he benefit in any way by eliminating half the life in the universe?
He is crazy, and I suppose if you're schizophrenic and the only way you can alleviate that is through murder, then in a roundabout way, yeah, you benefit from killing folk.
If anything, if his desire is power over the universe, he's killing half of his subjects. No, Thanos is not about himself. And he is willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice, that of the one he loves, in order to better the universe. Killing Gamora was the ultimate selfless act next to killing himself.
I think you and I might have very different definitions of selflessness.
Which wouldn't have been useful in that situation.
True, I mean, except for the fact that he could have gone for the Time Stone before the Soul Stone, got the Time Stone, killed Gamora, got the Soul Stone, then used the Time Stone to go back and bring her back. Except, actually, he could have done that anyway. So...
Jeremy Bentham, the founder of utilitarianism, defined utility as the sum of all pleasure that results from an action, minus the suffering of anyone involved in the action.
So what you're saying is, it's extra stupid to kill off half the universe indiscriminately and cause mass suffering, both emotionally and physically, from, again, those who vanished while they were in the middle of service jobs, or cutting open people, or flying a plane. So it extra super double doesn't make any sense.
Think of the sum total of all pleasure that results from eliminating half the life in the universe.
Which you would get if you were a Cenobite.
It means enough resources to go around, and hence, survivability and the potential to thrive for all those who remain.
Until they breed and repopulate, and then we're back to square one.
The suffering that comes from eliminating half the life in the universe is that of those who lose beings they love. And that hurts. But as soon as the current set of life in the universe is gone, or even just as soon as some time passes, the pain will subside and new beings will come to life who will benefit from abundant resources.
Your logic is pretty good here, except for the fact that there are memorials for the fucking Civil War. Painful events can be felt across generations, and if you don't think that 9/11 is still going to get brought up in 2221 or whatever, then you might not know human nature. Also, I find it kinda unbelievable that you could wipe out half the life in the universe, assuming that you only stuck with sentience, and given everybody knowing who did it, there wouldn't be some kind of mass mobilization against you. It just seems like that would be something that would happen after people found out who did it, and no matter how long it took, they would find you and kill you.
The amount of life that will benefit into the future due to Thanos' actions is exponentially greater than those that will suffer from them.
Assuming that in the act of mass vaporization you didn't kill anyone who was going to become a great changing mind of their generation, or someone whose family lineage would eventually lead to a resistance to a disease that down the road would eventually wipe out a certain population. I mean, assuming all that, yeah, maybe, sort of, I guess. Assuming, again, that they don't have emotions like people and wouldn't vow revenge.
Additionally, in utilitarianism, no one's interests can be valued more than another's, and Thanos does not discriminate. He just snaps his fingers. The elimination of life is equal across all types of beings, and so are the benefits that will come from that action.
Again, I described previously in this video why that would be a terrible decision, but let's just say he's stuck with killing rich people. Just really rich CEOs. Well, you throw the fucking economy into chaos if you do that, which, again, causes mass suffering. Okay, well, let's say he kills all professors at a college. Well, professors do research too. You've just denied the whole of the planet a fucking a possible cure, or a new power source, or a new food supply, so can't do that. Okay, let's say you just kill random workers. Well, some of those people were probably, parents or sons who their, family will mourn. But let's assume that they were all friendless drifters. Well, eventually, possibly, they might become people with families or offspring, but let's say they didn't. Let's say he's stuck with only the workers who had menial jobs and would never have kids and had no one who cared about them. If you wipe all of those out, congratulations, you've just created a massive labor shortage. Again, this is why part of me believes this is like an act, but then I've seen his other videos and it's like, Is it though? It's just the whole justification for any of it makes no sense at all. Like, none of this makes any sense.
Thanos is a true utilitarian, and that is why moving forward in the Marvel Universe, I will march with Thanos, Lord Thanos. And I call upon you, my loyal compatriots in the global unity movement.
Compatriots. You don't have to accentuate the O. It's not compatriots, it's compatriots.
To bow before Thanos as well. And together, we will end suffering.
What's happening? There's been a massive meltdown. We gotta get out of here. Where's Steve? He was supposed to keep pressing the red button. I don't know. He just vanished. Oh my god, this plant's gonna kill everybody within 1,000 miles. Imagine the suffering.
We will make a better world. Well, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe down below.
Well, I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but it definitely inspired me to do this, so hey, I got something out of it. Anyway, if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and then select from the sub-menu that you want to see my videos as they come out, as opposed to random selections within a year from that. This is like some kind of fucking form you gotta fill out down there. And don't forget, if you're a patron, you saw this episode 2 days early like these people. Look at that list. I've got a $1 a month thing. You know, you give me $1 a month. You lose that amount of money in fucking change in the couch. Also, despite all the shit I just gave him, give Generation Films some love. He's trying. He really is. And as always, have a good day.